Have you ever wondered why some actions feel heavy, forced, and draining while others flow so naturally, as if the universe itself is guiding your every step? What if the greatest breakthroughs in your life are not waiting at the end of endless hard work, but are sparked by the whispers of inspiration you've been taught to ignore? And what if the true difference between struggle and transformation is not about doing more, but about aligning your actions with a higher source of guidance and purpose? When we talk about success, most people think about action grinding, hustling, and pushing harder, but there is a deeper truth. Not all actions are created equal. Some actions are born from fear, scarcity, or pressure. They drain your energy, even if they bring temporary results. But then, there are actions that come from a different place, a place of clarity, alignment, and inspiration. These actions carry a power far greater than effort alone. This is what we call inspired action. It is the bridge between intuition and transformation, between the inner call of your spirit and the outer results of your life. In this journey, we will explore what inspired action truly is, where it comes from, and how it can reshape not only the results you create, but also the person you become in the process. We will uncover how purpose, flow, and synchronicity work together to guide you, how fear and doubt can be dissolved through inspiration, and how to step boldly into a life where your actions are not just movements, but living expressions of your highest self. Take a breath, open your heart, and allow yourself to step into this exploration, because once you learn to live from inspired action, you no longer chase transformation. It begins to chase you. Chapter 1. The difference between action and inspired action. Most people live under the constant drumbeat of one belief. If you want success, you must work harder, do more, and never stop moving. And while action is indeed essential, there is something crucial that often gets overlooked. Not all actions lead to the same results, because not all actions come from the same place. Think about it this way. You can spend hours digging a hole in the wrong spot, working harder and harder, and still never find the treasure. Or you can pause, listen, align with guidance, and place your shovel exactly where it matters. Suddenly, what seemed impossible becomes effortless. This is the difference between action driven by force and inspired action. Ordinary action often comes from the mind's pressure. I should be doing more. If I don't act now, I'll fall behind. What if I miss my chance? This type of action is heavy. It's exhausting. Even when it produces results, it leaves you drained, unsatisfied, always searching for the next task. It is the hamster wheel spinning, yet going nowhere deeper. But inspired action feels different. It comes not from fear, but from clarity. It often begins as a quiet nudge, a whisper of intuition, a sudden spark of insight that seems to arrive out of nowhere. And when you follow it, the work flows more smoothly. Synchronicities appear, and doors seem to open at just the right time. Instead of forcing results, you are guided into them. Let me ask you this. Have you ever had the experience where you suddenly felt, I just know I need to call this person, or I feel drawn to start this project now, and when you did, everything aligned perfectly? That's inspired action in motion. It is action infused with energy, timing, and alignment that ordinary effort could never create. Here's the truth. Inspired action does not mean doing less. It means doing what matters most. It means trusting that your intuition, your spirit, and even the universe itself are pointing you toward the path where your energy has the greatest impact. The difference between action and inspired action, then, is not about the size of the effort, but about the source of the effort. Ordinary action comes from the mind's pressure. Inspired action comes from the heart's alignment. One drains you, the other expands you. One struggles to push against the current. The other allows the current to carry you forward. As we step deeper into this journey, you will begin to see that the greatest transformations in your life are not built on sheer force, but on inspired steps taken at the right time, in the right way, for the right reasons. Chapter 2. The source of inspired action. If inspired action feels so powerful and effortless, then the natural question arises: where does it come from? To answer this, let's return to where we left off. We saw how ordinary action is born from the mind's pressure, while inspired action flows from a deeper place. But what exactly is that deeper place? And how do we access it? The truth is, inspired action arises from alignment with your true self, with your inner wisdom, and with the greater intelligence that moves through all of life. It is not just a thought, not just an impulse, but a resonance. It is the point where your inner clarity meets the outer flow of life. Think of it as tuning into a frequency. When your mind is noisy, when fear and doubt are loud, you are out of tune. You can still act, but your actions will be scattered, forced, and often ineffective. But when you quiet yourself through reflection, presence, or simply pausing long enough to listen, you begin to pick up signals. Subtle nudges, gentle whispers, inner knowings that point you toward the next right step. And here is something remarkable. These signals are always present. The guidance of inspired action is never absent-eyed, only that we are often too busy, too distracted, or too anxious to notice. Inspiration doesn't scream. It speaks softly. It requires us to attune, to open, to listen. Some call this guidance intuition. Others call it spirit, higher self, or the voice of God. Whatever language you use, the essence remains the same. Inspired action flows from connection to something greater than your limited self. It is the river of life moving through you, carrying you toward growth, expansion, and purpose. Let me give you a picture. Imagine standing at the edge of a forest, unsure which path to take. Your logical mind may analyze each trail, weighing pros and cons, calculating outcomes, but deep down there is a feeling, pulled toward one path in particular. You cannot explain it rationally, but something inside you knows. And when you trust that pull, you discover that the path leads you exactly where you need to be. This is how inspired action works. Its source is not external pressure, but inner clarity. It is the union of your inner truth and the natural flow of life around you. When you learn to recognize this source, something shifts. Life no longer feels like a constant struggle to push, chase, and control. Instead, it becomes a collaboration, a dance between your willingness to act and life's willingness to guide. And the more you trust this source, the more it shows up for you. Opportunities appear. Coincidences line up. People cross your path at the exact right moment. You realize that you are not alone in your efforts. You are part of a living network of energy that responds when you move in alignment with it. So the question is not, how can I work harder? The question becomes, how can I connect more deeply to the source of inspired action within me? Because when you do, your steps gain power. Your voice gains resonance, and your life gains direction. Chapter 3. Inspired action as alignment with purpose. If the source of inspired action is inner clarity and connection, then the natural question is, alignment with what? What exactly are we aligning ourselves to when we act from inspiration? The answer is both simple and profound. Inspired action aligns us with our purpose. Purpose is not merely a career choice, a goal, or a role you play in society. Purpose is the unique vibration of your existence, the reason you are here, the contribution only you can make, the melody your soul longs to express. And when your actions are aligned with this deeper purpose, they carry a force far beyond what ordinary effort can create. Think about the difference between rowing a boat upstream versus letting the current carry you. Ordinary action is often like rowing hard, exhausting, sometimes even against the natural flow. Inspired action is like dropping the oars and discovering that the current itself is moving you forward. The current is your purpose. It is the stream of life that your soul was always meant to follow. But here is the challenge. Many people never pause long enough to ask, what is my true purpose? They confuse it with external achievements, with the expectations of others, or with short-term desires. As a result, their actions, though busy and effortful, feel empty. They may succeed in the world's eyes, yet still feel a quiet hunger in sense that something essential is missing. Inspired action, however, dissolves that hunger. Because when you act from purpose, you feel whole, even if the outcome is uncertain. Even if the path is challenging, there is a joy, a lightness. And in knowing that you are where you need to be, let's make this real. Imagine a musician who plays only to impress others. Her actions will feel strained, her creativity limited. But if she plays because music is the language of her soul, she plays because she cannot not play, then her performance carries magic. That magic is what inspired action feels like in our own lives. Is the spark of purpose shining through us? And notice this: when your actions align with purpose, they naturally uplift others. True purpose is never selfish, because the essence of purpose is contribution. Your inspired steps, however small, create ripples that touch lives beyond what you can see. This is why inspired action has a different energy. It does not burn you out. It does not leave you restless. Instead, it nourishes you, because you are no longer working against yourself. You are working with the truth of who you are. Here's a secret. Purpose does not always arrive as a grand vision. Often, it begins as a subtle pull, a sense of aliveness in certain activities, a deep resonance in certain causes, a whisper that says, "This matters." Inspired action is your way of saying yes to that whisper, again and again, until it becomes the guiding song of your life. And so, the path becomes clearer. To live with inspired action is to live with alignment, to listen, to trust, and to move in harmony with the deep calling of your soul. Because when you align your actions with your purpose, life itself begins to align with you. Chapter 4. Flow, Synchronicity, and Effortless Momentum. When your actions align with your purpose, something remarkable begins to happen. You enter the realm of flow. Flow is that state where time seems to disappear, where effort feels natural, where your entire being is absorbed in the present moment. It is not forced, not calculated, but alive and organic. Athletes call it being in the zone. Artists describe it as losing themselves in their craft. You may have felt it too in moments when everything just clicked, when you felt both deeply focused and beautifully free. But flow is more than just a psychological state. On a deeper level, flow is the energy of the universe moving through you without resistance. It is life expressing itself effortlessly because you have stepped out of your own way. And here is the wonder of inspired action. It naturally leads to flow. When you take steps aligned with your purpose, your actions are infused with clarity and meaning. You stop overthinking, you stop doubting, and suddenly you are simply doing, not out of pressure, but out of presence. Yet flow rarely comes alone, alongside it. You begin to notice synchronicity, those meaningful coincidences that seem too perfect to be random. The right person shows up at the right time. A book falls into your hands that answers the exact question on your mind. An opportunity opens just when you are ready to step forward. These synchronicities are not accidents. They are signals that you are moving in rhythm with life's deeper intelligence. They remind you that you are not navigating this journey alone. The universe is partnering with you. And the more you honor these signals, the more they multiply. It is as if life whispers, "Yes, keep going, you're on the path." This creates what we can call effortless momentum. Unlike ordinary effort, where you constantly push and struggle, effortless momentum feels like being carried by a wave. Your actions still require presence and commitment, but the path itself seems smoother. The doors open wider, and progress feels almost inevitable. Think of a surfer catching the perfect wave. She still needs to paddle, balance, and move skillfully. But once she aligns with the wave, the power of the ocean does most of the work. That is effortless momentum in your own life. Your inspired action aligns you with a greater current, and suddenly, progress accelerates beyond what your individual effort could ever achieve. Of course, flow, synchronicity, and effortless momentum are not constant states. There will still be days of waiting, times of challenge, moments of uncertainty. But once you've tasted this rhythm, you know it is real. You know that life has a way of carrying you forward when you align with inspiration. And perhaps most importantly, this state of flow reminds you that the journey itself is the gift. Inspired action is not only about outcomes, it is about the aliveness you feel as you walk the path. So the invitation is simple. When synchronicities appear, notice them. When flow calls, enter it fully. When momentum builds, ride the wave. For these are signs that you're living not only with purpose, but in partnership with life itself. Chapter 5. Overcoming fear, doubt, and resistance through inspiration. No matter how awakened, purposeful, or inspired we may feel, there will always be visitors on the path. Fear, doubt, and resistance. Fear whispers, "What if you fail? What if you're not enough? What if you lose everything?" Doubt follows. Maybe you're not ready. Maybe you misunderstood the signs. Maybe this isn't your path after all. And resistance plants its heavy weight in your body, making you procrastinate, hesitate, or stay stuck in endless planning instead of moving forward. These inner voices are not enemies to destroy. They are old guardians programs designed to keep you safe, to keep you inside the familiar. But here's the truth. What feels safe is often just what is known. And if you want to step into a bigger life, you must leave the old shores behind. This is where inspiration becomes more than motivation. Motivation can push you for a while, but it can run dry. Inspiration, however, is like a flame lit from within. It doesn't demand you to fight fear, it simply makes fear less relevant. Imagine standing on the edge of a cliff, nervous and trembling. The drop looks terrifying. But suddenly, you notice a breathtaking view, the horizon painted with colors you've never seen before. For a moment, your awe overpowers your fear. Still feel it, but now it is smaller compared to the beauty calling you forward. That is how inspiration works. It shifts your focus from what you fear to what you long for. Doubt, too, begins to dissolve in the presence of inspiration. Doubt thrives in uncertainty, but when you are deeply connected to your purpose, your conviction speaks louder than the questions in your mind. You don't need to silence doubt. You simply let inspiration guide your steps anyway. And resistance, the weight that keeps you still, can be softened, not by brute force, but by alignment. Resistance loses its power when the action you take feels natural, meaningful, and true. Instead of dragging yourself forward, you feel drawn into movement, as if life itself is pulling you toward what matters most. Think of it like walking through a dark forest with a lantern. Fear tells you about the shadows. Doubt insists you're lost. Resistance urges you to stop moving. But the lantern, the flame of inspiration, lights just enough of the path for your next step. And with each step you take, more of the path is revealed. The key is this: you don't need to eliminate fear, doubt, or resistance. You simply need to let inspiration grow stronger than them, and when it does, these voices transform. Fear becomes a sign that you are stretching into new territory. Doubt becomes a reminder to stay humble and curious. Resistance becomes the test that strengthens your resolve. Every great creator, leader, and visionary has felt fear. Every awakened millionaire has wrestled with doubt. Every inspired being has met resistance. What makes them different is not that they avoided these challenges, it's that they answered the call of inspiration anyway. And here lies the paradox. The very moment you choose to act despite fear, you discover that the fear was never as powerful as it seemed. The very moment you move with doubt still whispering, you realize clarity often comes after action, not before. The very moment you push through resistance, you see that energy was waiting on the other side, ready to carry you further. So let inspiration be your compass. Let it lead you beyond the walls your mind builds, for when you act from that place, fear, doubt, and resistance become not barriers, but stepping stones, markers that you are, in fact, walking the path of transformation. Chapter 6. Cultivating the space for inspiration to emerge. Many people believe inspiration strikes like lightning sudden, unpredictable, out of nowhere. And yes, sometimes it feels that way, but in truth, inspiration is not random. It is a natural current that flows when we make room for it. Think of a garden. If the soil is too crowded with weeds, if the ground is too dry or too hard, seeds cannot take root. But when you prepare the soil, when you clear water and soften it, new life emerges naturally. The same is true for the human heart and mind. Inspiration grows in the space you cultivate. So, how do we prepare ourselves for inspiration? First, by creating stillness, the noise of modern life, endless notifications, constant tasks, and the rush of daily demands clutters our inner world when our minds are full of noise. Inspiration has no room to land, but in silence, even brief silence, whispers can be heard. Some of the world's most powerful ideas have arrived not during frantic effort, but in the quiet moments. A walk in nature, a pause in meditation, a moment of solitude before dawn. Stillness is not emptiness, it is fertile ground. It is the pause between breaths where inspiration slips in. Second, inspiration arises when we live with curiosity. Curiosity is the doorway to wonder. When you are curious, you ask questions that open space for new insights. Instead of demanding certainty, you invite discovery. Curiosity turns the ordinary into extraordinary, and in that openness, inspiration finds its way. Have you noticed how children are constantly inspired? Every rock, every leaf, every cloud holds fascination. Their curiosity creates endless sparks as adults. We can reclaim that spirit by loosening the grip of judgment and allowing life to surprise us again. Third, cultivate space by protecting your energy. Inspiration thrives when your body, mind, and spirit are nourished. Exhaustion, overcommitment, and burnout close the door to creative flow. This does not mean avoiding hard work. It means honoring the cycles of rest and renewal that allow inspiration to flourish. Just as fields must lie fallow to restore their richness, you too must replenish your inner soil. When you feel drained, inspiration cannot enter. But when you feel alive, vibrant, and aligned, ideas flow effortlessly. Fourth, remember that inspiration follows rhythm. Like the tides and the seasons, you cannot force a seed to sprout in winter. You cannot demand sunrise at midnight. In the same way, you cannot always control when inspiration will arrive, but you can align yourself with the natural rhythms that welcome it. Notice your personal cycles, the times of day you feel most alive, the seasons when you feel most creative, the environments that bring you peace. Align with those rhythms, and you will find inspiration visits more often and with greater depth. Finally, cultivate trust in the gaps. Often, people panic when they feel uninspired, as if something is wrong with them. But the truth is, the gap is part of the process. Just as the inhale depends on the exhale, inspiration depends on moments of rest. Trust that the space you create will not stay empty forever, is preparing you for the spark to come. The paradox is this: the less you chase inspiration, the more it comes. The more you soften, open, and make room, the more naturally it arrives. Inspiration is not forced, it is received. So, cultivate your inner soil. Clear the clutter. Welcome stillness. Protect your energy. Stay curious. Trust the gaps. And when inspiration arrives, you will be ready, open, and strong enough to act upon it. Chapter 7. Taking the leap when inspiration calls. There comes a moment in every journey when inspiration arrives, not as a gentle whisper, but as a powerful call. It might feel like an idea that won't let go, a vision that keeps returning. In dreams, or a quiet but undeniable knowing that says, this is your next step. And yet, here lies the test. Many people feel this call, but few act upon it. Why? Because the leap of inspired action requires courage when inspiration calls. It often points us toward uncharted territory. It rarely asks us to stay comfortable. Instead, it nudges us into the unknown, the business we've long dreamed of starting. The book we've always felt called to write, the conversation we've avoided for years. The unknown feels uncertain, and uncertainty often breeds fear. But here is the paradox. Fear is the gatekeeper of growth. If inspiration leads you to a path that scares you, it is often the clearest sign you are moving in the right direction. The unknown is not your enemy, is the doorway to the life you were meant to live. Taking the leap is not about eliminating fights, about building trust strong enough to walk with fear and still move forward. Trust that inspiration would not have been given to you if you were not meant to carry it out. Trust that the same force that whispered the idea will also guide you in its unfolding. Imagine standing on the edge of a cliff with a bridge hidden by fog. You cannot see the whole path, but as you take each step, the next part of the bridge appears. That is how inspired action works. You don't receive the entire plan in advance. You receive the next step, and as you walk, the way is revealed. When inspiration calls, the only true response is action, not analysis, not endless questioning, not waiting for perfect timing. Action. Action is the language of commitment. It is how you signal to the universe that you are serious about the calling you've received. The first step does not need to be dramatic. It can be small, almost invisible to others. Writing the first page, making the phone call, sketching the design, speaking the idea out loud for the first time. But no matter how small, that step matters, because it transforms inspiration from dream into reality. Hesitation is natural. The mind will whisper, what if I fail? What if I'm not ready? What if it doesn't work? But hesitation must give way to momentum. The longer you wait, the louder doubt becomes. The sooner you act, the more energy flows. Momentum has a power of its own once you take the leap. Doors open that you could not have imagined, opportunities appear where none existed before, and support arrives in unexpected ways. Life responds to those who respond to inspiration. Taking the leap is not a one-time event. It is a practice, a muscle you strengthen every time you choose inspired action over fear. Each leap builds your courage, your faith, and your trust in the unseen forces guiding you, and with each step, you awaken more fully to the truth. You are not just living life, you are co-creating it. So, when inspiration calls and it will listen, do not dismiss it as fantasy, do not delay it with excuses. Stand at the edge, breathe deeply, and step forward. Because the life you long for is waiting, not in the safety of the familiar, but in the leap into the unknown. And when you leap, you discover what every inspired soul before you has discovered, that you were never leaping into emptiness, you were leaping into the arms of destiny. Final reminder, living as an inspired being. As we come to the close of this journey, take a moment to breathe. Reflect on everything you've walked through, the whispers of inspiration, the gentle nudges toward alignment, the courage to step into uncertainty, and the leaps that awaken new realities. Living as an inspired being is not about chasing constant fireworks or extraordinary moments. It is about choosing, again and again, to honor the quiet voice within. It is about recognizing that inspiration is not an occasional visitor, is the very language of your soul. To live as an inspired being is to live beyond routine, beyond autopilot, beyond the heavy weight of should and must. It is to live with openness, ready to be surprised, ready to be guided, ready to let life flow through you in ways that exceed your imagination. You no longer act out of obligation, but out of resonance. You no longer chase approval, but alignment. You no longer see fear as an enemy, but as a signal that something sacred and transformative awaits on the other side. When you live this way, something beautiful happens. Your life becomes a ripple of inspiration for others. The way you walk, the choices you make, the courage you embody, all of it creates space for others to listen to their own call. You don't just change your life, you become a catalyst for change in the lives you touch. Think about it. Every great movement, every piece of art, every innovation that shaped the world began with one person listening to inspiration and choosing to act. That same power lives within you. So, let this not be the end of a chapter, but the beginning of a practice. Each morning, wake with curiosity. What is life inviting me to today? Where is inspiration leading me? What small step can I take to honor it? Your purpose does not need to be grand in the eyes of the world. It only needs to be authentic in the truth of your soul. When you live this way moment by moment, step by step, you become the embodiment of inspired action. Remember this, you are not here to simply survive. You are not here to live a life scripted by fear or limitation. You are here to create, to give, to receive, to love, and to expand into the fullness of who you are meant to be. And that begins not with waiting for the perfect moment, but by saying yes, yes to inspiration, yes to the leap, yes to the life that calls you beyond the ordinary. So step forward, not as someone waiting for a sign, but as someone who has become the sign. Step forward as a being of inspiration, ready to live not only with action, but with inspired action. Because when you do, you don't just live, you awaken. Thank you for spending this moment with Awaken Light Audio. If something today touched your heart or opened your mind, don't keep it to yourself. Share your thoughts in the comments. What spoke to you most? Tell us about your journey, your questions, your breakthroughs, and let us know what you'd love to hear next. Subscribe to stay connected. And if this message could uplift someone you care about, send it their way, because light grows when it's shared. Until next time, stay present, stay awakened, and keep becoming who you're meant to be.